I think I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Becky, would you call the roll, please?
I sure will. Jim Sheeline.
Here.
Mike Book. Tom Kitson. Larry Mimini. And he did say he was not going to be here today. Tim Bivens.
Here.
Nancy Naylor.
Present.
Jennifer Dallas.
Here.
All right, we'll go run around the room real quick. Jeremy, you have anything for us besides what? Charlie?
No, sir. Thank you.
For us? You bet. Paul?
I actually do have a couple of things for you guys. It's not on the agenda. I just wanted to give everybody a heads up. Property tax collections, we're at 84 million out of about 86 million. We sent out a little over 1,800 certified letters at the end of September for those that are still owed. Of those 1,800, 840 were Woodhaven properties. So that'll kind of give you guys an idea of some of the issues we deal with on a day-to-day basis. The tax sale for this year is October 30th, so the end of this month. So any of these properties that have not come in to pay their taxes the tax value will be sold in the tax sale at the end of the month. So just wanted to give you a heads up as to what's going on with property tax. So that's it.
And that was kind of pointed out with the Joseph E. Meyer resolutions we've got to deal with this month. So
Correct. There's a little bit of that going on right now too.
right.
You know, Jim, just real quick, anybody that hasn't done it, come to one of those tax sales is very, very interesting. Sit and watch how it operates.
Yeah, it's
interesting to see the process.
yes. Yeah, and it is open to the public. So
Yeah. And it's kind of one of those unknown things.
yeah.
It's
Now you do
have
have
an
to
animal on its own.
and just if the public is listening, you do have to register officially as a tax buyer by the end of this week to be a actual tax buyer. The public is welcome to come and view it and see it, but if you wanted to be a tax buyer, which is a very complicated process, I would not recommend it to just anyone. You get yourself an attorney and have a business set up, but yeah, it's a process.
Yep.
So.
Very good. Thank you.
Yep.
Reed? Dean? Michael? Clay? Just point out, I kidded Clay before the meeting, but very interesting report. If you haven't had a chance to read Clay's report this month, a couple of things, we authorized the camera. The camera seems to be doing really well. Maybe you want to make some comments later on about it, but just some interesting incidents has been happening in the neighborhood. So anyway, appreciate those reports, Clay. Stacy? Yep. Patty? There?
Only the ARPA item on the agenda.
Very good. All right, Amy.
Morning.
Hey, good morning.
Very briefly, I
Sure.
just wanted to let you know that we received official notice from the AOIC that they will be offering the court technology grant again for fiscal year 25. Requests are due by December 9th. So we do have one more demo next week, and then we're going to meet with the team and decide what direction we're going to take on a new case management system. So
Awesome.
that's where we're at.
All right.
Any questions?
So that, with that being authorized, so that's gives us a level of confidence as far as that money will be available for that.
It gives us confidence, but if we request it, they can always deny it,
Sure.
amend it, approve it all, approve some. So yes,
But it's
being
feeling
offered.
better.
Yes.
Feeling better as time goes on.
Right.
Yeah, it's positive. That's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all I got. Thanks.
All right. We have the minutes from the previous meeting. We have two meetings, the finance committee meeting last month and also our budget wrap up. Was there any additions or corrections to those budget meetings? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve both those meetings, moved by Bivens, second by Naylor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion, all those opposed, motion carried. Treasurer's financial report. Paul, want to say anything about our monthly financials this month?
I'm just going to point out a couple different things for you, and then we'll move on. Cash balances look pretty good, about where we had expected them to be for the month. Again, we've got a large balance in the agency fund, and that is the property tax money that will be distributed. There's one going out next week, and then the final one will be in November. Again, that'll drop that significantly for that balance. So that's agency funds that is not necessarily county funds.
Mhm. Sure.
Yes.
On the revenue and expense, I think the biggest thing we want to focus on is the revenue side of it. Property tax, we're still expecting probably about a $1.5 million value coming in for the county itself, which will get us up to speed on revenue. Reed and I have been going through these numbers constantly and over and over and over and trying to do some different projections. Looks like we're going to be really, really close to what we had projected. So should be there. If we can keep expenses to a minimum over the next 2 months, I expect that deficit to shrink to about even. That is hopefully without doing any of the movements out of capital into county general to supplement some of our loss.
Mhm.
I'm hoping that we're real close.
And so, and does that also include, did we end up doing the transfer out of solid waste?
We have not yet.
So.
That's what I mean by,
Okay, you were,
Frank,
I was
I-
thinking straight out of capital, but.
yeah, well, I said capital, but yeah,
Yeah.
I guess I mean in the sense of our reserves.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so we have not done any of that yet, but we could come real close to a break-even point, even without that. If we have to, we will,
Mhm.
but we're kind of waiting, just anticipating.
Okay,
I think we see an awful, a reduction in the PPRT that we've been preaching about all year long. The other thing that we now started noticing is use tax is actually coming down a little bit. And it kind of makes sense in that as the total workforce starts to go back to work instead of working from home, you're having less and less, I'll call it the Wayfair tax, less and less bought maybe online through the local area here and more in the brick and mortar stores. And that will reduce our use tax a little bit. So that's coming down a little bit, but it shouldn't be enough to really hurt us too bad.
that is not reflected in my household at all. I'll have to have a chat with Bert about that, but that is not. Anyway, that's positive news. You guys are scaring me, getting positive news.
Yeah.
From both sides of the room. here.
Yeah, that's all right.
That's
The
great.
only other thing I'll point out on the capital side is, we've had a very significant increase in our returns for our value of our money that is there. And, that's due in part to what we're doing to try to make sure we're getting the best value for our dollar. But also, we haven't spent as much this year as we had planned. The other thing I would look at is the interfund loan. From the projections that we see, we should be able to almost cut that in half by the end of this year. And then maybe even clear it by the end of next year, which means we're almost 10 years ahead of our schedule on that.
Yep.
So that's significant too.
And that's going to help us with next year's budget.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. Well, not so much 25s, but beyond that.
26.
But yeah, or 26, but yeah, beyond that, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So that should help. Other than that, everything else is moving on track. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Okay, any questions for Paul for this month? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to, we've got, let's see, Lyram's not here, so we won't have Gredco report. Nancy, do we have anything on insurance?
Nothing on insurance. We don't have a meeting till November.
Okay, very good. Look forward to November. All right, we're down to number 9, ARPA. So we got the quarterly report. Sarah, I will leave it to you.
All right, good morning. Patty and I have the ARPA quarterly report prepared for you. It is in your packet there for the meeting. Just kind of highlights what we've got as far as approved ARPA expenditures this last quarter. Didn't really have any new expenditures, but if you remember in July, last time we were here for the quarterly report, we had some reallocations of funds. No new expenditures, August, September. We do have a board action request form for $210 of ARPA funds. So we allocated funds to the Lee County Health Department to cover their like local restaurants, food businesses, their certifications. We received that last invoice and there was $210 remaining in that line item. So our board action request form is asking to reallocate that to available ARPA funds. I attached the spreadsheet as well, and it has the $210 highlighted if you want to look at the itemization of all of those. So that's what we're asking for, is that be reallocated back to ARPA expenses so that can be used towards a future expenditure.
And you're showing $18,965 left in, and that's the total amount left in ARPA funds that to be allocated?
Yes, that's correct. So if the $210 is approved, then our total amount remaining for ARPA funds to be either expended or obligated to an expense by December 31st of this year is that $18,965.59.
Okay. And we've already done the resolution, obviously, in moving everything over to the general fund. So that is just a matter of more of an accounting notation that just want to make sure that we don't end up the year with having to refund some money back.
Right. So we'll
out of
need
the
to, the finance committee or whoever will need to,
We'll need to appropriate
Yeah,
that
I was gonna say.
to the county general. That 18,000, they have it marked as there's no project that we have that associated with. Well, one of the projects can be county general funds or could be capital funds in the terms of any capital expenditure. But just so
So
you
we'll
guys.
want to do that by
Yeah.
next month in order to
Yes.
have that cleaned up.
Correct. You'll want to do it next month, just to make sure going into the final month of the year of December of the calendar year.
Right.
That we have clearly appropriated all of the money. And we may not have spent it all, but we have clearly appropriated it.
that's correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
And then the last item I have on our report is just a website that I shared from an ARPA training webinar that I attended. You have the ability to log on to that website, view by state, by county, by municipality, everybody's ARPA projects, how much they spent on each project, and a short description of the project. So if you're curious what other counties in the state or other states are doing, you can log on to that website and choose that by state, and then it narrows it down to county, or like some of the larger cities like Cook County, or Chicago, received awards too. So it lists all of that on there if you're curious about that.
Interesting. Okay. Very good. Anything else?
That's all that we have. We'll
All
just
right.
need a vote on that board action request form,
All
and that's
right,
it.
we'll take care of that right now. Thanks, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Got a motion from Mr. Bivens, second by Kitson. Any discussion? Everybody understand what we're doing with the board action request? ARPA? Okay, no discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. So there we have that taken care of. Now we have the approval of the Joseph E. Meyer resolutions. We have 9 of those resolutions. Is there any specific resolution the committee would like to pull out for any discussion? If not, well, I'll entertain a motion to approve those, move to executive, and we'll do those all together in one motion. So moved by Bivens, second by Naylor. Or you want, actually, you're the one maybe. I'll make it moved by Naylor, seconded by Bivens. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. We have the monthly sheriff's report. That was information only that we commented on earlier. And we do hope that we find the gentleman from the Camaro, hopefully. Anyway, like I said, if you haven't had a chance to read Clay's report, it's a good report, and it's good to know. And I appreciate that information. That camera seems to be really working out well for us. So, yep. All right, we have no unfinished business. For new business, we have the levy ordinance and the budget ordinance. So Jeremy, I'm gonna hand it over to you. And we'll go through the official levy as presented.
Sure. So again, just want to thank Paul Reed and Jennifer Boyd from the assessment office. Working through this levy process has been intriguing. So the levy that you see in front of you, the ordinance, states that the final approval obviously would be on the November 21st board meeting. This has to be voted in to go to exec and then to the board meeting for October. It'll be held over along with the budget ordinance for vote and to put on file in November. The total levy requested is $9,439,552, which is $680,172 or 7.7% more than last year. As the ordinance states, this increase is primarily due to the significant increase in the estimated new property with the assessed value of $45 million. The county's proposed 2024 tax rate will be approximately 0.8497 per $100 of EAV, up from 0.8228 in 2023. If you look at the comparables in that table below, it'll show you the rate changes and what the expected change is over 23 to 24, which is then to 25. So we're looking at a 10.6% increase in the corporate rate, minus 5.3% in county highway, 3.2% in county bridge, increase 1.2% in tuberculosis fund, 2.9% increase in the federal aid highway. We're looking at a 0.7% decrease in county health and a 0.7% decrease in the veteran assistance. And that's just due to the requests. If you look underneath that, it tells you that, again, for a median price home valued at $150,000, that this would result in an annual estimated tax bill increase of roughly $11.82. And then below that, it just talks about, again, the levy funds and kind of breaks that down. So something to think about in trying to put this into terms that we all can understand and hopefully everybody can understand is that, the way that this is calculated that we went over in our previous workshops is that, there's we're estimating in the 3.4% CPI increase. That increase reflects on how much the county is allowed to increase the property tax levy, okay, based on inflation. So that 3.4% increase applies only to the existing tax base, all right? So that 7.7% that you're seeing is the overall levy increase, and we're able to capture that out of the $45 million in estimated new construction. So that's why I just want people to know it's like we're not seeing this. You're not going to see this 7.7% increase in your existing tax bill. You're going to, if for existing taxpayers, that's going to be that 3.4%. 7.7% is that overall revenue increase. We're able to capture the entirety of that in new construction. So I don't want folks to think that, oh, they're raising our taxes this much. It's really a modest increase. And we're able to, again, every time we're able to do this levy off of new construction, that's, the only time that first year is when we're able to capture the entirety of that tax base increase. And then every subsequent year, once it's on the current tax base, we're only able to capture the 3.4% or whatever the PTIL limitations are. Do you have any questions on the ordinance or the explanation of how this is going to affect the taxpayer?
Before we get into questions, Paul Reed, any comments regards putting the levy together? I mean, I guess my only question is, last year we had a little bit of a snafu and we didn't capture all of the new property that and that's a loss. Are we sure we have adequately levied enough to capture all of the projected new value.
Yeah, I think we've worked with the assessor's office extensively to the point
Yes.
where they feel comfortable that the 45 million is what we're gonna come in with new construction value. Last year, our estimate was a little low as compared to the actuals. This year, we may even be a little high. I mean, it may come in at 44, right? So you want to be high because if you are, the PTEL will limit you based on your actuals. So.
And I guess that's where I wanted to make sure everybody was clear at. Even if
Yeah.
we're high, it'll get adjusted back down
will.
with the actuals as those numbers get codified.
Correct, correct. It will come, it will be based on your true actual. Now, if our actuals come in higher, which we don't really anticipate this year at all on that, you know, then we've left the proverbial money on the table. But I think Jeremy explained it very well, and really for anybody listening, it is truly the value of new construction that, if you think about it, last year, their tax value might have been zero because they didn't really have a lot on the property. Now they're up and running and their tax bill may be 10,000, 100,000, whatever it is. That's the new value that we're getting, not from an existing taxpayer.
Right.
So, yeah, it works out.
And just for comparison purposes, this year, our estimated new construction is 45 million. Last year, I think our estimated was 6.
6.5.
So 6.5. So that increase is really all that new construction.
And hopefully we can keep that going.
Yeah, I think that what that shows you too is the value of expansion, the value of new opportunities coming to the county in most forms, right? That gives you a value that can be can help across the whole board.
Yeah, you know, I think we've said this a handful of times, but you know, new construction, you know, essentially lowers the rate pressure, right? So we're spreading that tax burden further than just on our existing tax base, and that is important for growth. You know, and the question of, do we feel comfortable with the 45 million? Up until we were finalizing this ordinance, I was working with Jennifer to make sure that we were pretty solid on that number, and she feels very confident in that. So I think we are in a good place.
Okay. Any questions from the committee for any of the team? All right. Well, we'll go ahead. I'll entertain a motion to pass this ordinance on to the executive committee for placement on the full county board agenda. Moved by Naylor, seconded by Kitson. Any discussion from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. All right, so let's move on to the budget ordinance. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Trying to open it up here. And again, from the budget ordinance standpoint, you know, we extensively went through this during our budget hearings with committee. Reed and Paul did a fantastic job going through this over and over and over with us, and trying to make sure that our numbers are spot on and correct here. You know, going through this, if you scroll down, I mean, you were looking at where we ended up with the deficit over revenues, or deficit revenues over expenditures. We're looking at an excess of the $2,678 is what we're projecting when we put this budget on file. Our expenditures are looking at $18,056,935 with revenues coming in just slightly over 17 million. I would have to scroll back up, but to give you the exact number. So keep in mind that we're looking at the transfer in. That's going to reflect there off of the public safety transfer in from capital and solid waste, and then we have some transfer outs, and that's where that balance is going to show us in the black for this FY25 budget of $2,670. But everything, there is nothing that was changed from the last time we had a budget hearing. Everything has stayed exactly the same from the numbers you looked at.
Let's go ahead and get a motion on the table, and then if there's any questions, we can have at it. So moved by Bivens, seconded by Naylor. Discussion. So even with the change in the $45 million in new property, that didn't change our, the what we projected as far as the property tax income. I should have changed a little bit.
Yeah, so it did adjust some of that. Well, I guess we were able to adjust a little bit of the transfers, but it still balanced out.
To the 2,600.
Yeah, so Jim, what that increase is you were able to lower your need to subsidize out of your reserves,
Mhm.
but we also aided some of the highway department request because we had actually initially lowered that 200,000 compared to what they had the year before in terms of a revenue. And we were able to then push back 100,000 into them such that they are still down 97,000 something, 100,000. But so it basically in essence balanced out. You were able to put in a little more revenue, but you were also able to show, hey, I don't have the reserves that I need to take to balance it. So in essence, you're still in a excess of $2,000. It's just kind of a swing between revenue and expenses.
Sure. And hopefully, as we go through next year, we'll be able to do next year the same thing we're doing this year, that we won't have to take out those dollars out of solid waste or
Correct.
from capital to make this all work.
Correct. I mean, I think you would always try to hope for that and look at that as a possibility, such that your revenues are right there where you anticipated, maybe slightly higher, and maybe somebody's expenditures wasn't as bad as what they thought it would be, such that you don't have to use your reserves to cover the county general fund, such that it would be eating away at it. Yeah.
Right. Any questions for the team? You guys are giving them a pass on this.
Well, good, because
I know
they
we've been
worked their
throwing
tails
up,
off.
up teams. So I always want to make sure everybody gets their questions answered if there's any questions. So, all right. If there's no more questions, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of placing this on the executive committee for be put on the full board agenda for this month, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. All right. Well, I want to say thank you to Jeremy and Reed. I know it's been said that we've got a great finance team. We've got a great finance committee. Appreciate you guys' efforts in going through. I want to also thank the department heads, as they bring in their the process works. And a lot of times it's uncomfortable. There's difficult discussions that we have to have in order to pull this all together. But at the end of the day, I think we have a pretty good team. And you guys are a big, as department heads, you guys are a huge part of that makes this all work. And I just want to thank everybody for their efforts. Really do. All right. Well, next thing we do have an executive session. So I would ask for a motion to go into executive session. Moved by Jennifer. I was doing so well not to trip on a name. I went around the entire room and I got everybody's name right the first time.
We're gonna give you flashcards.
Motion by Dallas, seconded by Kitson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. We'll go into executive session.
Call.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. We do have to have roll call.
Jim Sheeline,
Aye.
Tom Kitson,
Yes.
Tim Bivens,
Yes.
Nancy Naylor,
Yes.
Jennifer Dallas.
Yes.
Sure. Jim Sheeline,
Yes.
Mike Book, Tom Kitson,
Yes.
Larry Mimini, Tim Bivens.
Yes.
Nancy Naylor,
Yes.
Jennifer Dennis.